Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Do it live.
Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome to Wired Axcess Podcast. I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. We greatly appreciate you like, follow, share everything that we do, especially with Hurrdat Sports, because we cannot do what we do without them. And our producer back there, Austin, doing a great job out here at Hurrdat Sports. Today is a whole different change of scenery. For those who follow what I do, of course, you see me rebrand, redo the Omaha Beef podcast to Primetime Beef Huddle. Always have my famous co-host with me, head coach Brandon Negron. Well, today I brought him into my area, the Wired Axcess side of what I do. Coach, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? How you doing?
You know, this is where, we're always looking to just try to provide some information, some journeys, some things that some people have trouble over, getting through it. And maybe there's something that you've experienced through your coaching experience, that maybe there's an athlete out there that's looking to take themselves to the next level, whether it is through high school, whether it is through college, whether it is through arena football and beyond. And of course, that is always your goal there with the Omaha Beef. But when I get to know you, there's parts of you that I don't know. And what I always want to say is, I think people have this one thought of every great coach was a great football player.
Right.
But I could say it for myself.
Or were they wrong?
They were wrong. I could say I coached, 15 years with very little football once it came to high school, and that was just because no one guided me to tell me where I needed to go. I went from a elementary or middle school from one city, middle school to another, to a high school where I knew nobody.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't say, hey, this is what you do. I had no idea. I played sports all my life until then. You have others who go through high school and decide, okay, this isn't for me. You have those that go through high school, they continue to play. They try every level that they can outside of high school. They get up there, and they make it to a little bit of JUCO or a little bit of this, and they might give up for one reason or another, whether it's a belief, whether it's respect of the game. Where does your history start when with your football game? What was your playing days like, and where did that start with you?
My playing days were average at best. Let's be really clear about that. So, I probably started seriously playing football in high school. Youth football back in the 80s and early 90s wasn't, the landscape wasn't that great, right? So, typically you would start, in maybe middle school, high school more likely. I didn't really play organized until, my junior year of high school at Farrell in Staten Island. And it was, the equivalent of a practice squad player. I was skinny. I hadn't been in weight rooms or anything like that. I learned how to lift, in high school football practices. And I did it really because I had switched schools my sophomore year, and I wanted friends, right, in this new school. So I was like, all right, everybody loves football players. Let me go be a football player. I wasn't good, right? So people don't love football players that aren't good. I took a really big hit in a game, and once I took that hit, I was like, this is crazy. I love the game. I've always loved the game. But I knew then that, I was going to be a coach, right? Because I was tall, I got, I don't even know if I would call them offers. I got invites to talk about offers, but much different landscape. Now there's a path, right? If you're an athlete and you want to play any collegiate sport, you can follow a full path. And you have multiple examples of people you can follow that can kind of guide you along the way, even if your parents aren't completely versed on how to navigate that. You can see it. It's on social media. They'll teach you everything you need to know. You go on Facebook, right? I didn't have any path, right? So somebody want to talk to me about playing football, yeah, I'll talk to you. But, one of the schools that I got talked to was North Texas. They basically offered me to come walk on, right? And I don't even know North Texas now is not the North Texas it was in 1996 when
Yeah.
I was graduating, right? So definitely would have made it now. But I, as a kid, grew up in New York, right? So I was petrified. I was like, I'm not going to Texas, right? So I wound up going to culinary school, and that was kind of the end of my football playing career. And I didn't get back into coaching until I had my son.
Yeah.
And my son my older son, Brandon, is the one that, had an opportunity at the conventional path, the path you see now. So that's a brief synopsis of my play. But, look, there's a saying that, some of the best coaches were the worst players. If that's the case, I'm going to be one of the greatest coaches of all time, given that.
It's funny that you say a lot of this because it's like we have way more in common than you know, because that was my thing. Is the only reason I got back into football is because my son was born, and I was like, let me get back in the game I love, learn about it. I try to go coach at a local youth organization, and the guy takes my application, sets it to the side, and he's like, yeah, okay. And then I walk out, and I kind of sat there a little sour in the tooth going, man, he didn't even give it a head or, hey, let's talk about it. I mean, it was a volunteer, and so then I decided, I'm going to go try to play football. I have buddies that were doing some semi-pro, as they call it, but it's just adults going to play football.
No.
Went down that road to try to play, and all of a sudden I'm like, there's no coaches around here. We're just out here just trying to do a tryout, and I'm like, I don't even see anybody who's trying us out.
Yeah.
Start doing the warm-ups, and people just started listening. And I was like, man, I'm a general manager at a fast food restaurant. I'm most definitely not in the playing shape that I should be. People are listening. Why not go coach?
Yeah.
And then it was like, from there, it just fast-tracked to high school coaching, and you start out with youth, you start out with that. But you talked about, your decision, of course, to leave the game. What position did you play growing up?
I was a tight end, wide receiver tight end. I was tall. I had good hands.
Yeah.
I was decent speed, but I'm not a weight room guy. I didn't like the weight room, so that was going to kill me in the end.
See, and it's weird because, of course, now, there's so many people that can guide you and tell you and give you those helpful hints. I mean, we've had so many athletes, no matter the sport, talk about weight room, what you eat, what you do, and then when you don't have all that stuff together, you look at culinary. Mm-hmm. What was your interest in culinary arts?
So, my interest was also predicated upon the number of schools that I got accepted to, right? So my options were limited. North Texas was obviously one. Johnson & Wales University was the other. Wanted to be close to home, so it was Providence, Rhode Island at the time. I was living in Staten Island, New York. And Johnson & Wales is one of the best culinary schools in the country. So I did kind of like a split major of hotel restaurant management and culinary. And then interestingly enough, because I had no patience back then, when you're a freshman, they don't let you cook anything. They just teach you about bacteria. So I said, I'm going to lean more towards the hotel and finance stuff. But I've always liked to cook. I grew, I'm half Hispanic, right? That's all we do is cook and eat. And, that was my life. So I love that. So I just wanted to be better at it, be good at it. And, it's fun, right? I like food. I mean, everybody who watches my social media knows that, I don't turn.
If there's a place,
I don't turn down a meal, right?
That's right.
So,
if there's a place, he's coming to you.
But that was the go-to. I had to make one of two choices, and again, I was a New Yorker. I wasn't ready to go to Texas, so I went 3 hours from home.
What took you to Orlando and you started doing some youth football? That's when you got back into football, wasn't it?
So wound up working, did a bunch of odd jobs. I was in the investment world for a little while in my early 20s. Like any 22-year-old kid, you get your first mess up, right? So what do? You run home to mom, right? My mom, when I went to college, my mom retired, went to Florida.
Smart lady.
Smart lady, oh yeah. So I went to her, and then I wound up, meeting my wife down in Florida. That's where she's from, and we had our first son, Brandon, and like you said, youth sports, and you get involved, and I followed him, right? When you're an adult and it's a kid, the kid's following, you're following the kid, right? So I followed him and coached him. And then youth sports, next thing you know, I'm coaching middle school. And the next thing you know, I'm coaching high school. And the next thing you know, I'm, getting offers from different JUCOs to go help out. And then all through coaching circles and clinics and meeting guys and things like that, I met Josh Resignalo, who was the coach of the Carolina Cobras. This is, again, you're moving, throughout your career and stuff like that. He offered me a coaching job, D-line, O-line, and that was 2018 maybe. And, I started there and just worked my way up the ranks.
When you think of those early coaching careers, what position were you coaching? How did that all go for you?
From youth to high school, I held anywhere from head coach to offensive coordinator. That's typically kind of my wheelhouse. I've always been an offensive guy. I think naturally when you move into the pros or you move into higher levels, you start at a position. So I took O-line, D-line, because I think, look, if you're a football coach, you know all assets, all facets of the game, rather. Sorry, assets, facets. So I felt comfortable doing that. And, if you're committed to your craft, even if you don't know it, you learn it. And so I did that. But, my wheelhouse has always been the offensive side of the ball. And so that's the direction I lend towards. When Coach Fuller took over in Carolina after Rez left, he's an offensive genius. I followed him everywhere he went. I absorbed as much information as he would give me so that I could be the coach I think I'm becoming today.
Of course, you got a lot of good coaching down there in the South. Do you remember any early maybe coaches clinics and stuff that you would go to? Any coaches that you kind of looked up to, maybe in the college game, maybe in the pros game, that you might have been able to catch while you were down there?
Yeah, look, I've always been a Nick Saban guy, and it's interesting that I say that, right? Because I say I'm offensive, he's a defensive-minded coach. But what I love about him is just his leadership style, how he runs an operation. There's a book that I've probably read 3 or 4 times that are basically it's his leadership styles, and so I put a lot of what we do now in Omaha and into the way he runs an operation. That's important to me. So that's inspirational to me. From an offensive strategy, again, I learned a ton from James Fuller. And I was only with him 1 season, but this is a guy that he played in the NFL. He interned under Bill Belichick. His attention to detail, his study, I don't know that I could even really describe it. Just watching him work, you want to be like that. You want to coach like that if you like coaching the game. And then if you go back to kind of my youth and high school days, there was a coach at R.J. Reynolds in Winston, Coach King. Again, just really smart, understanding concepts, explaining concepts, the way he taught the kids. I've always gravitated towards old school, old style coaches. So disciplinarians, I'm not yelling as much as I used to because I think that gets old, and I just think this era of player doesn't always respond to that. But I have a lot of respect for the yelling coach. I think, they're yelling, but they're telling you what they want, and I think players respect that. I tell players what I want, and there's no wavering around that. I kind of do that in everything in life. I tell people what I want. I don't know if that always works, but I like that style of coaching. So, if I had to name, maybe coaches at different, Saban obviously one of them, and then you look at college. I loved Charlie Weiss when he was at Notre Dame. Again, offensive-minded coach. And then you go into high school, coaches like Coach King, Coach Fuller in my arena ranks. I got a few.
You, of course, like you said, grown up with your son, trying to guide him as well. How were you able to kind of be able to grow through yourself as far as going from assistants to head coaching positions, but also know that you're also trying to find things for your son? How were you able to put all that together for yourself?
So it didn't work with my older son, right? I think with my older son, I probably pushed too hard, and you got to be careful with that because you take away their love for the game. What happened though in that is I learned how to then do it what at least I think is right with my younger son. So my younger son's a high school quarterback right now. really talented. I think he's got a bright future. Again, at the end of the day, you're a dad. What do you really want? You want college education paid for. I'm not sitting around thinking, my son's going to be a first-round NFL driver. It'd be nice. We'll certainly take the check and be excited. But I more want him to get an education, right? So when you ask me that, how did I learn and how did I grow? I learned a lot about what not to do when you sit back and reflect and look at my son's. My son also went to college during COVID, right? So that just made it so everybody lost their love for everything.
Dude, my daughter was playing soccer down at Manhattan Christian College because Nebraska Christian College closed because of COVID, along with lack of people signed in. She had a scholarship. She was going to do what she wanted to do. But when she went down Manhattan, that took her 3 hours away. She went from 5 minutes to 3 hours. She's a homebody. In that first 6 months, she was quarantined 7 times.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand the mental.
Yeah.
So not only did these kids lose a lot of their high school stuff, I mean, I still remember to the day, like, her having to drive through to get her diploma, get her stuff. But then you get them to college and you're thinking, this is what they want, they need it. And they're quarantined 7 times.
It's crazy.
The mental, I couldn't even fathom.
I remember, because my son wound up going to UNCG, which is right down the street from us. He could have stayed, with us, but he wanted to stay in the dorms. And they were having them just stay in the dorms, right, and doing classes on their laptops, but in the dorms. And then they were in the dorm rooms by themselves because they made everybody separate, right? So it's I hate to say it's like being kind of in a jail cell. So that was hard on him. So then how did I grow? So I was so hell-bent on moving up the ladder and hoping that he would just kind of follow along that I didn't realize that he just didn't have the love for the game that I did. Right, so what I wound up learning with my younger son is I can only push him as long as he loves the game. Right, football's you have to love it. Right, it's physically demanding. Right, if you don't love it, you're not going to play it. You're not going to play it well. Right, and so I think that with my older son, I probably pushed a little hard. Maybe I contributed to a little bit of his loss of love for the game. He's a great kid now. He's doing good. He just got a new job. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But it's not football, right? And maybe 10 years ago, it not being football, I would have been upset about it, right? Because I didn't know any better. Now I know a little bit better. So I think I learned that. But to this day, that kid's my inspiration, right? I wanted him to be successful in the game that I love. So I made sure that I maximized my potential in him so he could see, look, your dad's in it with you, right? I don't think I would have done that if I didn't have him as a motivation or an inspiration, right?
Yeah, it is crazy because, I think I coached my last game for high school in 2018. And then, of course, once 8th grade was done for my son, that would probably been 2022 was my last year of youth.
Yeah.
I try to get back into high school. And even coach at his school more because the kids that I've had impacted in the program, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football, and it just didn't go that way. And I didn't understand, but obviously I know where I am now. I know how I've kind of guided and showed them how to be multifaceted in so many things. And, of course, the worst is when you see coaches who you used to look up to even treat your own son and fail them as a senior.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Yeah.
I had a coach that promised he'd be at his graduation party, never came, but he saw him at everybody else's.
Right.
First game of the year, he's just a long snapper. He's not aggressive. He's a long snapper. He knows his position.
They get paid.
They still get paid. They still get scholarships.
Yes, they do.
They still get opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
One false snap over to the quarterback's head because they were going for 2. Never got an opportunity ever again after that.
Yeah.
As a senior in a program. And it just, those things make it hard as a coach, a father, just someone who loves the game, and that's why I don't fail all the athletes that we try to impact. I don't want to fail them because all it takes is, you've seen some of the episodes that I've done, one person to believe in them, and the next level could be there for them.
That's right.
You know, you of course talked about your youngest son coming up. You of course also talked about starting to get into the arena.
Yep.
What made you go the arena route compared to any other route that you were?
It's my NFL, man. I love it. I don't know that there's any one particular moment that I could say this was my route per se, but I know I belong here now. And look,
how did you even get your foot in arena over anything else?
Yeah, so that was meeting Coach Resignalo at a clinic, and him offering me that O-line, D-line job with the Carolina Cobras. And look, the first time, I still remember it like it was yesterday, the first time that I got to coach a game in the Greensboro Coliseum, it's indescribable. I was hooked. I wasn't going anywhere. You know, the crowds, so the Greensboro Coliseum seats 18,000 people. We were lucky if we got 1,800 to 2,000. I wouldn't have known the difference. The fans being right there, the benches being right there, the interaction with the other team, coaching on the field. You know, and it's hard when you're a position coach. You know, you're not on the field out the gate, right? You got your typically either your head coach, your OC, DC are the ones on the. Man, did I want to be on the field? So
did you at least have a headset? Because
I
know how it is. High school, not every coach gets a headset.
We all had
right?
headsets, which is good, and you know, I've always been pretty good about helping my whoever my superiors are on the headset about being, you know, cerebral and being that guy they can kind of, you know, feed off of and ask with. But I wanted to be on the field, right? So you know, I just love it. And what I love about it is that the arena game is the non-traditional journey for some of these guys, right? None of these guys are getting drafted, or maybe they you know, were draft eligible, didn't get drafted. Maybe they went to the NFL, were on a practice squad, got released. It's the hard route to a dream, and I love that, right? For me, it's to say, look, I say this is my NFL, and it is. If I got a call from an NFL team tomorrow, would I not take the call? I think everybody knows that that'd be crazy, right? Because that's going to come with probably a nice payday. But you know, I'm where I'm at, right? If that's my dream, if my dream one day is to coach in the NFL, I'm taking the same difficult path that I pitch to my players. I love it. I mean, there's nothing better. You know, and I'll tell this to my Omaha fans watching. You know, even when I came as a visitor in 2024, I don't know that there's a better place to be, whether you're the visitor or you're the home team, than at an Omaha Beef football game. It's you would never know. It's just 4,000 people. You would never know.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, what were you coaching at that time?
So when
Carolina?
I came in 24, I was the head coach of the Cobras, and that the game we played here, it was the last game of the season. It's June 8th, 2024. Had we won that game, we'd have played Omaha in the championship that following week. So we would have spent 2 weeks in Omaha. Unfortunately, I got what I like to affectionately call, I got Tommy Armstronged. And eliminated, but it was.
What do you remember about the Omaha Beef coming down there? Because it was a away game and a home
Oh yeah,
game.
we should have won that game. Carolina should have won that game, and I was obviously as the head coach of Carolina, so I could say that we had four. What I remember is 4 empty possessions. 4 times we had a chance to score, and we didn't. And look, you know. My owner, Rookie Burtz, will probably watch this podcast and say, well, what did the score say? And he's right. We lost. But, you know, I would like to think we gave Omaha their toughest games of the season that year, other than the championship, which was 47-46. But I remember that. I remember when Omaha came in, because, you know, this is coming off the 23 season where the team was just dominant. I mean, that 2023 Omaha Beef team just thumped everybody. So I just remember the aura of them like coming into the arena, and it you know, I call it the New York. It was like watching the New York Yankees come to play, right? And you're intimidated, right? But you know, at that time, like we never lost at home at Carolina. We were terrible on the road, but we were pretty good about defending home, and we were hyped. We thought we were going to win that game, and again, 4 empty possessions, some Tommy Armstrong. We lost 54-43.
When you talk about those moments right there, and you think of those head coaching first go around for you, and you think of those pre-game and post-game talks, what's some of the things that you learned about yourself in that moment where eyes get a little bit thicker on you, the message has to be a little bit different? What do you think changed for you when you started head coaching?
Yeah, so I've learned it even more now, especially like coming off the championship game last year. Energy management is huge. And when I say energy, I'm talking about your coach's energy, because the team is going to feed off of you. So, when you're just hyped and the adrenaline is pumping, if you just let that go, it can be detrimental, right? Because you overload, right? You give too much, and then third, fourth quarter, when you need to have your mind right just to adjust or to deal with whatever's happening within the game, you run out of juice, right? And I tell people when it comes to the championship game, last season was so tumultuous for the team, with the changes mid-season, old message, new message, lots of questions as to why. There were changes made during the season, roster changes, where I know fans were scratching their head like, what's this guy doing? Then you take all that, right, and you get through it, and you're so hyped up. Wow, through all that, we made it to the championship. And I remember being in Beaumont and even like when Omaha came down, I got to give the speech of my life, right? I got to say something to these guys so that they have glory on the other side of this thing. And so I think you have to be careful that you don't hype yourself up too much, right? And get them too hyped so that they can sustain that energy for the entire course of a game. So I think when you ask me what I've learned and what I think you'll see differently about me now is I'm just trying to stay even keeled, right? We're going to be at a certain place in the first quarter. It doesn't necessarily mean that's where we're going to be in the fourth quarter. I think every head coach's dream is to alleviate or eliminate panic altogether. So I think the 2024 Coach Negron and the 2026 Coach Negron have different levels of what puts him in panic and things like that. So I think that's what I've learned, just how to manage my energy and be the calm amidst the storm.
When you look at just that part of the calm amongst the storm and you think of halftime adjustments, how do you think you've grown in that aspect to understand where, I think it also goes back to you can over-adjust, you can overthink. How are you trying to make that even stick with your kind of policy and what you're looking for?
I think you just said it. I'm well known for being an overthinker, right? So I think as I'm trying to continue to grow as a coach, I just have to remind myself of that. Don't overthink this thing. Now, look, you down 3 or 4 touchdowns at halftime, you probably need to overthink, right? But if I'm down 1 or 2 points or even a touchdown at halftime in the arena game, you can get that back in one series, right? So you don't have to necessarily step away from your game plan. I think a lot of it is just trusting preparation too. I love preparation. It's one of the parts of the game that I love the most. I would like to say confidently I think I'm one of the better preparers, at least in my league. And that's no slight on my other coaches. I'm just confident in what I do. So I just think you have to believe in your preparation, and that in turn will kind of calm the overthinking parts and stuff like that.
Of course, you've been in the coaching game for a while. How do you continue to adjust yourself and maybe even explain to some fans that, don't understand how hard it is for families? Time away, giving back to a game you love, but it doesn't mean that it's all like, I don't know, it's really hard to circle around to that thought of the time away to other people's success, which could also lead to your success. It just, some people can't grasp that because they're so locked into that 9-to-5 job or that regular occurrence of a job.
So, I say this with, my family probably watching, right? I don't want to say that you have to make a choice, right? Because I don't think that's fair to coaches' families. Football is the one thing that my family and I always did together. But wives, sons, daughters, they want their husbands, they want their fathers. My dream is not necessarily their dream. They allowed me to make a choice, right? They know I can't do this halfway. I can't do it one foot in, one foot out. So, when I made the choice to come to Omaha, I committed to it, right? There's something I want to deliver to this fan base, to this city, to our owner, to all the people that believe in me. I can't do that halfway, right? So, if I'm being open, and I am, I don't mind being open. Some sacrifices were made, and so my family's doing well and they're thriving and they're doing the things that they love. I have to support that. If that support involves them being in Greensboro and me being here, that's just both parties agreeing to support the other's dreams and end game. This is not for the faint of heart, man. It's not. This is a grind. I can tell you the off season's even harder than the season, right? Because at the end of the day, why am I doing this? I'm doing this to coach football, right? Well, I coach football for 4 months. I don't coach football for 8 months. That 8 months is hard, right? And this first year, I obviously last year was my first year, but I came in mid-season. This is my first full year, right? So I wanted to be here. I wanted to contribute to the growth of the business. I wanted to get more acclimated to the community. I wanted the community to get to know me. So, conventional wisdom, everybody would think, well, after the season, he'll go home. Well, I don't know that would have been good for what I'm trying to accomplish here, right? So I stayed. That's another sacrifice. That's family sacrificing dad. That's wives sacrificing husbands. That's me sacrificing time with my kids, right? So it's a grind, but like I said, everybody, you get one life, man. You get one life, and you have dreams, and not many people can still go after their dream at 47 years old, right? That typically by then you've either the dreams passed you by, or you gotta what society calls, you gotta be responsible, and you gotta do the regular. Give up the things that maybe you really want. I'm very blessed to have a family that didn't ask me to do that. So yeah, it's hard, but at the end of the day, when if I come back here on June 23rd, I'm gonna say there's gonna be something sitting next to me. I'm gonna say this is why I did it, right? This right here, and then you make decisions from there on what you're gonna do with the rest of your life.
Well, and of course, the hardest thing with coaching is also the different players that you deal with. Learning the styles, learning who they are. That's important also with being here this time, because it has given you some time with the ones who are local.
Yep.
But also just so you could start setting the precedent of who you are, and they can hopefully see. You came in last year in mid-season. What do you remember about that part for you of going, how can I get this ship right with no one having any clue who the heck Brandon Negron is?
Toughest plane ride I've probably ever had. That plane ride from Greensboro to Omaha on April 5th, that's exactly what I spent that whole ride thinking about. And look, I was coming in the villain, right? People were still asking questions as to why my predecessor was asked to move on from undefeated. Right, none of it made sense. Right?
Minus the preseason game that counts. It counts in the fans' eyes, right?
I'm glad you feel that way because
it does.
We're gonna make up for that on March 7th.
I could tell you from the fan side, I wanted to vomit.
Yeah.
I wanted to vomit. We have never lost a preseason game, and that was bad. Yeah. And you can't bring it up any other way besides that's just not beef football.
No. And that won't happen again. I can say
quote that.
Yeah, you can quote that. But I asked all those questions, Kendall. How am I gonna get these guys past the trauma of losing their head coach? What do they know about me? What did my now? Thankfully, I had built a little bit of a resume up until then. I don't.
Well, you were coach of the year in 2024, so that's bonus.
That helped, right? I've statistically, my offenses were pretty, productive in comparison to the rest of the league. So, but at the end of the day, it's about, they don't care about stats. They don't care about it. It's how do I connect to them individually as an athlete? How do they know that I have their best interests at heart? And that was the main thing, and that lends to what I'm trying to accomplish even now. There's a way that I want to win. I'm not discounting winning by any multiple championships. I'm not discounting, but there's just a way that I want to do it that I think is a little bit differently than maybe has been done in the past. And it's really that team content. Nobody's bigger than the team. I'm not bigger than the team. Everybody on the team can contribute in some way, shape, or form. I'm not going to let them forget that. And I just think that on film, that translates on film better to elevating than individualism. And, I can say this. I think I've earned enough equity now. I felt like some of the teams in the past were just built on individualism, that it was a bunch of really good athletes, beating the piss out of other people, right? And not taking away. It's 3 out of 5 championships. There is no taking away from that. But I just feel like, especially this group this year, what we're doing in the off season, what our front office does, the meetings I'm having with the teams, the meetings my coordinators have, when it's all said and done, this is going to feel different. And I don't know that I can properly articulate what that winning differently means. You're just going to see. You'll feel it. It'll be there. And even at toward the end of last season, there was a point where we just kind of made a transition as a team, where I started to feel like we were all coming together and it wasn't so individualistic. Look, it wasn't. We lost the first game in Beaumont. That was me and 21 guys trying to figure something out.
But hey, what I love though is, and especially on the coaches show prior to your arrival, your owner owned up to it. He said, if we lose this first game, there's no one else you can look in the mirror besides me.
Yeah.
Having that type of owner to speak up that way, knowing the big change, knowing what he's doing, that has to speak volumes, 1, for comfortability, but 2, for accountability.
So
and it feeds down.
Yeah, and look, let me say this. It's never comfortable. And it's okay, because look, let's be real. My owner's fired 2 coaches that were undefeated. So don't think I don't think about that every time I go to sleep. But that's a good thing, because he keeps you working at the peak of your game, right? There's no days off with Ricky Burt's, and look, it's from the top. He doesn't take a day off, right? So there's no days off. There absolutely is a system of accountability, but the person he holds accountable first is himself, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing that he asks me to do that he wouldn't do. I love that environment. He is literally in the trenches with you, no pun intended. He is right there. He doesn't micromanage anything I do on the football side. He's very trusting in that. He'll be vocal when he wants to be vocal, which he can. It's his team. He signs the checks. But he lets me do my job. But it's never comfortable, and that's exactly the way it should be. That's the difference, kind of, between 5-on-5 teams and teams that have been to 3 of the last 5 championships. I want to make sure that's really clear. If you want to come to Omaha and be part of this group, this staff, the front office, the game day, do not come here thinking you're going to ever be comfortable. It's not, because he doesn't do mediocrity, and so I love that. I think that's great, and that's part of the message we feed to the team, right? That's the type of players that we want to bring in. But what I love about him now, and what I think he's realized, and I'd like to think is one of the reasons why he brought me here, is he doesn't want to be mediocre in the community either, right?
Yeah.
The team's been in Omaha for 27 years. The fact that I still have to tell people who is the Omaha Beef, even now, we missed something along the way, right? So he's committed to that. He's committed to making an impact on the field, which he's already been doing, committed to making an impact on the scoreboard, which he's already been doing, committed to making an impact now in the community. That's that's what it's all about. And he's the best owner in sports, man.
Well, and especially when you talk about, like we've said, 5 championship games in the past 5 years, winning 3 of them. Some by dominance, some by doing what they need to do.
Yep.
That's what sucks about it, is the fact that it still is that they're still around.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the success before.
And for someone who's been in the arena game a bit now, the number of failed teams far outweighs the number of successes, right? There are a lot of organizations, Carolina being one of them. The Carolina folded, right? Nobody would have thought that happened, but the finances of this business are difficult, right? So just think about, this team went through COVID. He took the team over where they didn't have a ton of success on the field. He's probably grown corporate partnerships by 5 or 6 times what they were, when he bought the team. It's pretty awesome. And from an industry perspective, it's, I know it's the cliche everybody hears, but it's the standard. The standard is the standard. This is how it's done. And it's crazy. We'll talk in just league circles all the time. How many people will not listen to him or just not model the Omaha model? And if you did, you'd probably be pretty successful at what you do.
Well, I mean, game day is not just a game day there. It is an event. It is, like you said, I tell everybody, anything that I try to do is always my Super Bowl, is always the biggest game, biggest thing. And they put it on every time. There's not a stop in the game that isn't covered by something. There isn't a moment where a fan doesn't feel like they're a part of everything that's going on around them, whether it is throwing footballs around, whether it is throwing tennis balls around, whether it is the rump roasters running around, the primetime dancers, the groups of people, the fact that bring the community inside, whether it's the dancers, the drum. I mean, dude, the drums last year, and oh man, that was like an electrifying thing that you just couldn't explain.
Yeah.
Oh, and then guess what? They also got rolling around. Their Mustang rolling in, their Jeep rolling in, and then people see those on the street, and I hear it all the time. Yeah, we saw the beef truck. This, we saw that.
It's hard to miss these days,
dude. Especially now, it's orange, and I think the Mustang's black now.
It's gonna be black. Yeah, it's gonna look really cool.
Ooh, can't wait to see that. You remember the call from Ricky?
Yeah.
Was it a call that you ever would have thought was going to come your way going through your process?
Maybe at some point. I don't. There was a different plan than what happened, right? So I mean, I guess I could tell you, right? So I wasn't going to be the head coach at first. I was coming to be the OC. And there was a different candidate to be head coach, and I was cool with that. I actually was relieved, at the end of the day, that's the guy that's got the answer, right? So I was going to come call plays, and I was still going to be on the field. I want to be on the field, so that was a requisite.
As long as he got the field.
As long as I got to be on the field. And it was cool. It was, look, Carolina had ended rough. It was just rough. It was that off season 24 to 25 was brutal. And it was a relief. I knew, if nothing else, I knew I was coming to stability, right? So that was a relief. So the call was good, but then that second call of, oh, by the way, the candidate fell through. We're just gonna implement the succession plan we had. Now we're gonna escalate it. You're gonna be the head coach. I was like, okay. Of course you say, yeah, that's cool, but underneath it, like, I don't want to curse, but holy, you know what? And, then I said, the plane ride is, how am I going to get these guys to know everything's going to be all right? But, Ricky and I had met at a playoff game for another league. He was part of the expansion committee, and one of the teams in that playoff game were getting ready to come to the league in 2025, and we hit it off. And I remember, so I was with Donna at the time, my wife, and she was at the game, and I remember her saying, you need to go work for that guy. And I was like, well, I'm under contract. Can't just do that.
It's not as easy as that.
And she was like, well, you need to figure it out. And so, I knew at some point I'd come work for him. I think maybe admittedly, I probably would have thought maybe through the front office first, because I do like the business side. But he knows how much I love coaching, and he was going to make that work for me no matter what. But yeah, I mean, it's best call I've gotten in a long time.
He said it went the other way. Sorry,
Yeah.
my eyes all watering
No, you're
over
good.
here. So you, of course, finished the season with the loss of the championship game. These past 6 months, you've obviously seen yourself grow. You have grown your public speaking, obviously, with the podcast
Yep.
and with just the interactions with the community. What's the things about Omaha that really draws you to love the area and some of the people around here?
I mean, look, even today, man, it'll be a year in April that I'll be here, right? I'm getting treated the same way today as I did when I first came, right? I went to Just Good Meat today just to say hello and drop off some schedules. He feeds me, which everybody knows the way to my heart. The fans are just great. Every time I'm out, people come up to me and say, "Hey, aren't you Coach Negron from the B?" And yeah, shake my hand and just, I'm just treated really, really well, right? And look, it's, I'm going to give her a shout out because she's sitting over there. I have our VP, Lacey, drove me here today. And she's always joking around. You need to get used to celebrity, right? I'm never used to that, right? I'm not used to someone saying, hey, and meet me out in public and stuff like that. So that's been really cool. I just, look, we're in an era right now with a lot of divisiveness, right? And a lot of separation. I don't see that here, right? Everybody seems aligned and united, and everybody loves the team. The people that know about the team love the team. The people that don't know about the team, when they come to a game, they love the team. I always treat my athletes really well. That's important to me. I love that. It's just now. Look, you all got to do something about this cold weather. I don't know if I'm feeling that much, but
hey, man, you have been blessed, okay? I could tell you because my snow bank account tells me you have been blessed,
all
okay?
right. So you haven't had to shovel as much as it did.
Bro, I brought out the plows one day, and even then was barely a day.
Well,
Okay.
that's fine. I hate that for you financially, but that's about the only part. But look, it's a great sports town, right? And it's a great sports town for dreamers, right? Because it's a bunch of minor league sports, right? The Lancers for hockey, the Storm Chasers, the Supernovas. I love that, right? It's a town that supports athletes that can remain human, that can go out in public and not be bombarded and enjoy their city and stuff like that. And I love that. I love it, and I want to give them a winner. You mentioned that championship game. Kills me. I wanted it for Tommy. It was his last game. I wanted it for my boss who made all the changes, and I wanted to give and say it was worth it. I wanted it for everybody that supported the change, right? I mean, you and Katie. I mean, you guys have been fans of mine since day one, right? So I wanted to give you back what you invested in, right? So that hurts. Bad news for the rest of the league in 2026, because I mean we're going to thump everybody. I'm motivated to motivate my guys to finish what we've started from day one. So
what I have to say, and of course it's been around. I notice a lot of former Nebraska players say it. When people say Nebraska is a great place, whether it's a university, and I'll say with the Omaha Beef football, is all it takes is you to get out to a game. You come to one game, you're going to be hooked.
You're hooked, man.
But you got to give it that chance.
Yeah.
You guys start your schedule here coming up March 7th.
19 days till camp.
But before then, I mean, we got a couple events where people can meet you. And I think those are huge.
Yeah.
Like, we just got done with the college football thing at Hooters. We had the one at the tacos over the fall.
Yeah, FanFest.
We have the one coming up for the Super Bowl.
Yep, 72 table and tap this
72
Sunday.
table and tap. Broncos are not in it. Neither are the Bills. Neither are the Niners.
Seahawks and Patriots.
Seahawks and Patriots.
Thank God they're feeding me.
Who do you got winning? This will, of course, show right after the Super Bowl.
I think the Seahawks got it. I think they're good. They're a good squad.
Yeah.
Defense wins championships. Their defense is no joke. So.
And then, of course, after that, you got your guys' camp starting.
Yep.
When does that start? How does that kind of go?
Guys will start reporting on Sunday, February 22nd. We'll have our first real kind of orientation the 23rd, first practice 24th. So.
Then, of course, game week.
Yep.
You guys have Sammy Strong.
Yep.
You guys made that announcement
Huge.
this last week.
Again, testament to my owner and his commitment to doing things. He picked an unbelievable charity to partner with in the Sammy Strong Foundation. I've met that family. I've met Sammy. Of course, it's predicated upon combating pediatric brain cancer. Just an incredible story, great people. They've raised an incredible young man who's fought through some hellacious stuff to be the young man he is today. So we'll play the St. Joe's Bucks preseason, it's not going to be the same outcome as the last preseason game. They're
March 7th.
March 7th.
Down at the Slaughterhouse, the Liberty Federal Credit Union. When you talk about that venue for the Omaha Beef, some people go, it's too small, but other people who understand the game know that it's just right for the fact as we continue to grow. Mm-hmm. You need to make sure it looks right there first before you just go to these bigger venues. How is the sound in there now that you're a coach on the side where we're not adding sound?
Right.
We're not adding fans.
That statement is ludicrous.
And we may not have every seat filled because there's a bunch of organizations who have tickets, but doesn't mean that everybody comes from those organizations.
Yeah. And we've got some strategies in place to fix that, right? Because we recognize that. You have corporate partners that get vouchers and tickets and don't always, give them out or whatever. Maybe we're going to help them with that, right? We're going to be more active in that. But the venue's perfect. I mean, take it from somebody who coached in an 18,000-seat venue with about 17,000 seats empty, right?
You can tell.
You can tell, yeah. I mean, you can. You go on YouTube, you watch any Carolina Cobra game, there's a lot of empty seats, right? You watch an Omaha Beef game, there aren't many empty seats. And look, we want to grow, right? I mean, first off, growth and treatment are not one and the same. The Liberty First Credit Union Arena staff treats our team like kings and queens. I don't know what the price tag is for that, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of venues now are managed by management companies. I mean, our venue's managed by a management company, but there's a personal relationship between our current management staff of the arena and our front office, which speaks volumes to how great they are and how great the relationship with the arena has been. Do I want to see us grow? Absolutely, right? But look, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We're selling out 90% of our games. Why would we move to then potentially struggle on selling more tickets? Do I think that the team is going to grow and we may need to look at bigger venues down the road? Yeah, I mean that's
everybody's dream.
That's everybody's dream. But why? If the finances are good, everybody's eating, we're winning, the fans are happy, we will be a staple at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena until they kick us out.
Well,
which I hope they won't. Brooke, don't do that.
Speaking of that, you got your Sammy Strong polar plunge. You want to explain that real quick?
Yeah, I don't know how I got sucked into this.
Just like the hot chip challenge, you got to read.
See, but I was smart about that. I didn't eat that chip, but I'm going in on this one. I'm not going to let anybody down on this one. So March 5th, which is a Thursday, in combination with Redbox, who is the pool provider, and I think Elevate Construction is getting involved in it now as one of the premier sponsors. And then, of course, the foundation. We're going to do a polar plunge, $10. Anybody can jump. $10 goes. 100% of the proceeds go to the foundation. I'll actually be reaching out to the community the next couple of weeks, get a couple people to back me. Maybe you'll get me in there more than once. But I mean, it's all about raising money for the foundation and raising money to continue to combat pediatric cancer and brain cancer. I'm just hoping that that Mother Nature cooperates. That's all I
He said
care.
no ice, please.
Oh my God.
My daughter's about to do a polar plunge on this Saturday coming up for on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
This will be her 3rd year.
Okay.
She's a special education teacher, and this will be the 3rd year of her doing it. It's just amazing how doing something that people are afraid of, going in the cold water, can just raise money for great causes for the youth.
In and out.
You know, get in,
Get
out.
in, get out.
We'll get you out of here on this, Coach. Of course, you know, your message for your 2026 season, and then also maybe a message for those possibly looking to get into coaching. Maybe one last thing of what they should understand and how to find their way to be the coach they want to be.
So I'll do that part first, and then I'll get the message. So with coaching, you know, the thing that I've learned, and this kind of lends back to what you'd asked before, you just can't do it halfway. So if you want to be a coach, and especially at the professional ranks, and I wouldn't even limit it to that. I just think at any level where your voice has the potential to imprint on somebody, don't do that halfway. That's not a disservice to you. It's a disservice to them, right? And I can't coach with you if you're not as dedicated as me. I can't. So, you know, if you're sending me your resume, I've already told you prerequisite number 1 is you got to be all in. You got to be. And I don't know what that looks like for, you know, other individuals. I just know what it looks like for me. If you can't do it, you can't do it. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you bad for what I consider is the coaching industry. And also just be truthful, right? You know, look, I don't ever pretend to my players that I was good at the game. But what I do know I'm good at, and what they know I'm good at, is I'm always, I say this thing to them all the time. I say, I prepare so much you don't even have to, right? Mm-hmm. So I owe that to them, right? And I owe that to them because there are things within the game that I lack, per se, right? And that's more from the athletic side. I'm also getting older. I can't run routes anymore. That's
no chest bumps.
We're not doing that, right? So that's the coaching part. Is just be mindful of who you are, and be willing to just give your all. And then as far as a message for the season, look, it's like having a lion locked in a cage since we lost the championship in June. I'm so ready for the guys to get here. You know, I don't like to do guarantees. I think it's a little disrespectful to the rest of the coaches and teams in this league, but this is about as close to a guarantee as I'm going to get. I will be back on this chair on June 23rd, and I won't be by myself. I made a commitment to Omaha, to the fans, to the players, to the city, to my bosses, to you. I intend to honor that commitment. So anybody can take that for what it's worth, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be physical. We're going to be fast. We're going to be exciting. It's going to be nonstop excitement. Like you said, you come to a game, you'll be hooked, but it's all with a purpose, and I think everybody who knows me knows what that purpose is.
Well, Coach, I greatly appreciate your time. I appreciate your story a little deeper into who the Omaha Beef head coach, Brandon Negron, is. You can check them out also at beeffootball.com or call the office. Get yourself some tickets. March 7th is a game to come and just get a little taste. That taste will give you what the rest of the season will hold. They'll also be holding their watch parties at Hurrdat Sports Bar in La Vista, which is, of course, linked to what we do here, Hurrdat's production, sports production. We can't do what we do without them. Remember, like, share, follow. Share this with the coach or someone, but always remember, like Coach said, if you're going to coach or have an impact on anybody, make sure you're all 10 toes down and all the way in. You go halfway in, that's what you're going to get out on the other side.
Amen.
They're not going to be who you want them to be. But until next time, we greatly appreciate you following Wired Axcess podcast. See ya.